It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, Alex, Lindsay, and I will end the year, our last MacBreak Weekly of 2011, talking about the T-Mobile deal, major rumors on the Apple side, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. We'll even explain why there's an aluminum pole behind me. Stay tuned. MacBreak Weekly is up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 278, recorded December 20th, 2011. Use the poll. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Hover.com. Hover is domain name registration and management that's simple. Upgrade to a premium domain and trade in your old clunkers at macbreak.hover.com. And by Ford, featuring available sync with My Ford Touch. Sync with My Ford Touch gets you to your destination with integrated turn-by-turn directions and even directional arrows displayed on screen. Check it out in the new 2012 Ford Focus and at ford.com/technology. And by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. You guys.
Andy's on the phone and, yeah.
Oh, okay. And Alan is so upset. He says, "I'm out of here. You way to lose your audience, Leo."
No, I think people like this stuff.
No, for some reason, this really bugs people, and I'm not sure why. There's some very small number of people. Most people are very positive. No, that's fine. But for some reason, it bugs people, and I'm not sure why it does. This is not that complicated.
Yep. Like my car, I dropped off my car to be fixed last night, and this was, I knew that was the mechanic, and it was a chance to say yes, by all means, please go and fix it so I can pick it up today. Right. I'm like, oh, but Leo's going to be entertaining the audience for a good 5 minutes.
You got time.
I'm sure there's nothing.
You got time. All right, we're ready to begin here.
Yep, I'm recording.
Whatever you said, I wholeheartedly agree with your statement.
Of course. You'd be a fool to do otherwise. I control the microphone.
You are the titan. The titan of self-broadcasting and self-publishing.
Well,
if anybody knows,
I put my money where my mouth
give away
is.
Chairs like, oh, actually, they did give you that chair, but still, bad example.
No, we paid for this chair.
Oh, there you go. See,
we pay for it. We didn't get it for free.
They don't just give away those chairs.
No, they don't.
That's the focal point of years worth of business acumen, quality content, respecting your users, and building a solid community. A community that I too hope to exploit for my own personal content.
Exactly. All right. You know, the other reason I don't really want to start the show is there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, no, I'm going to put what you just did in the show somehow.
Okay.
It's more interesting than the rundown.
So here we go.
Should we just like read public domain Christmas stories?
I will. Here's what I'll do. I'll give you an intro that gets you into that. And
Great.
then I'll give you an outro out of that. Okay.
Awesome.
It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers Macintosh and Apple and iOS in great detail. And the core group, the core is here in our pre-holiday episode. Hanukkah begins tonight. Christmas is Sunday. But Alex Lindsay is here back from his travels around the world.
Merci.
Where were you last? Tell me the countries you've been to.
Last couple of weeks I was in Paris and then New York and then Japan.
Were we in Paris at the same time? Did we?
We were. I think we were just.
We missed each other.
Kind of overlapped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Paris, New York, and Japan. Is it all Salesforce?
A lot of it was long. Yeah. So we were doing a lot of different streaming.
Wow.
So it's but.
And I'm going to ask you about the Niners game last night in a second because I know you're a Steelers fan. I want to talk about it. I'm not going to rub it in.
What I really want to talk about is FaceTime in Japan, but we'll talk about that.
I want to talk about that too. Also here, Andy Ihnatko. And Andy, it's really great to have you back with your sisters. Because Andy was.
Sorry.
That's from the movie. Because we talked about this on Sunday because you were on Twit. By the way, thank you. That was a wild Twit.
That was a great thing to be part of. It was worth getting up early for on a Sunday night at 6 p.m. to to take part in that.
Well, I thank you for being the voice of reason there. Poor Harry McCracken was just shell shocked, and then Neeli and I were like fisticuffs. But I think it was a really good conversation about SOPA and all of this stuff. And Nilay Patel is like an old fart. I don't understand it. I should be the old fart. He's going, no, there's got to be a compromise. I said, there's no compromise. What are you talking about?
SOPA was created by the devil.
Well, his position was
Devil.
that you can't make it polarized black and white. You can't say there's SOPA is the devil, and then there should be you have to do something about piracy. And I was saying, well, it's not that I support piracy, but the problem, really, in my opinion, the problem is that once things is bits, there's no technical. And Nilay never came up with one, but there's no technical solution that there's no DRM that works. If a pirate wants to crack it, they can crack it. So any technological solution is going to be flawed, is only going to hamper, legal users, and is going to slow down pirates. And to me, the real issue is that what you really have is you have an older generation that says, yeah, we understand the internet's here, but we don't want to come up with new business models that work. We'd like to preserve our old business models. So let's break the internet rather than break our business models. So it's really, I think it's a very clear choice between breaking the business models that they have and breaking the internet. And Nilay we were in agreement about that. Our only disagreement was Nilay said, well, there's some middle ground where you could somehow preserve these business models without breaking the internet. And I just don't think that's technically feasible.
No, I think it's...
I'm not sure if he was saying that there's a way of preserving the business models.
But that's essentially what it is.
That's what it is. I mean, because the thing is that, Apple sold, billions of songs inside of massive piracy because they made it easier. They made it easier.
Well, and that's what Nilay was saying. He's saying, well, the copy protection in Netflix works. I said, it's not the copy protection, it's the ease. It's it's point of access. Copy protection is fundamentally flawed.
iTunes was an interesting initial example because it proved that people don't really care about DRM so long as they care about access and ease of use. So given that so many of iTunes initial users were using it to load content specifically on Apple-approved devices, whether or not they then had the right to copy that content onto any arbitrary device, they didn't so much care about that, so long as the delivery and the purchase mechanism was easy.
But that's missing the point, because the DRM didn't stop piracy in any way, although it's easy to strip the DRM out of fair play content. It's trivial. So one can do that. The only people who were hampered by the DRM in iTunes was those of us who said, well, I'd like to play it on a sixth computer, and couldn't. And so the people who bought it were the ones who DRM screwed, and the people who wanted to pirated all they wanted. It doesn't slow down piracy. It merely is a technological kludge that inconveniences real users. And that's why they dropped it, by the way, because it didn't do anything.
Yeah. Which was Apple's point all along.
Yes.
But that's, the great thing about the SOPA debate has always been, for me, is just that it brings the larger debate and every faction of that debate just in the forefront and into play, and just reminds you that there's so many different different opinions on what the future of distribution should be. There's some people who even think that Louis C.K.'s model was, I'll shorthand 2 pages of very, very thoughtful blog posting from somebody down to the core sentence, which is Louis C.K. is a fascist for charging money for his concert video. He should just give it away for free, not force us to pay over a credit card number. I'm doing the righteous thing by putting this on BitTorrent because I'm helping to promote his live show, which is where he makes his money from, by helping to spread the word on his great comedy. So that's one polar side of it. So the people who are advocating SOPA is the other polar side of it. So
I think that's a mistake. I'm the polar side of it, which says that there is no technological solution that doesn't break the internet. There are going to be people who will steal. I mean, look, there's thieves in the world. This guy's a thief, and he's rationalizing his thievery. There are thieves in the world. My point is you can't do anything about them technologically. So you need a business model that bypasses them. And the best business model of all is Louis C.K.'s business model, which is, hey, community, I love you. If you love me, pay for it. And he's made $750,000 to date. Seems like a good model.
Yeah,
it's our model.
And the thing is that when you're really providing a service, when we started DV Garage, I was putting up little free videos, constantly. These little videos on how to do this. People were buying our products simply to support us continuing to make those videos. It was, because we were doing something useful. And they were like, I'm buying the product. I don't even need your product, but I'm paying $150 for it because I want you to keep on making the videos that you're making for free. And that's the thing is when you're really providing a use and you're really doing something, I think that's what's missing often.
Some people keep saying, well, but Louis C.K. was famous. Well, so I don't understand how that's a tangent. I don't understand how that has anything to do with piracy or not piracy.
Well,
I mean, people who are famous don't get pirated, but people who are not famous do get pirated. I don't think that's the case.
It has nothing to do with the piracy debate, but it's a response to a lot of these op-eds that are being written are saying that, well, Louis C.K. proves that all you have to do is you don't need a distributor, you don't need to be on TV. All you need to do is just set up your own storefront, sell things directly to the people, and you'll make $1 million just like Louis C.K.
Well, if you're great, you will. Justin Bieber's doing all right.
Not even if you're great. I mean, the reason why he had such a success was that he's been a comic for 30 years.
Why did Justin Bieber have success?
Partly
straight out of the internet, baby.
Pamplemousse.
Well, no.
He was good. Pamplemousse.
Pamplemousse makes
Jonathan Colton. There are people who are not TV famous who are doing great.
But not making $1 million great.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's $1 million, but I know that.
You know how much? I would guess Justin Bieber makes more than Louis C.K. I would be my guess.
But realize that at some point he struck a deal with somebody who could convert talent and exposure into actual cash.
He didn't have to, but he did.
There are a bunch.
There's still. I think there's hangers on in the old media who decide. I think in this transitional period that's going to happen.
All I'm saying is that Louis C.K. is a data point. It's not a proof.
Well, there's tons of data points. I can give you. We can go on and on and on. Paul Coelho, The Alchemist, couldn't get it published. It got pirated. And he realized, and it started selling in Russia in a pirated version. He thought, wow, that's interesting. I can't get this thing published. And so he started putting it on BitTorrent himself. And I think he's doing all right. I think there are not infinite, but there are multiple data points. And the thing is that it doesn't have to be proven because that's almost even a subsidiary argument to the fact that there's no technological solution that doesn't break the internet and disadvantage honest users without slowing down pirates in the least. So an attempt to find this middle ground, this imaginary middle ground that Neil I was talking about, is futile.
Well, I think the other thing,
it doesn't even matter. It's just the way it is. I definitely agree with you on that point. It's like
I think I said this on Sunday too. It's the idea of that store where you have to leave all your bags at the front counter when you enter. When you leave, somebody with a flashlight will check to make sure that everything you're carrying has a receipt. I might shop there once, but I'm never coming back there again. It's possible that you're so concerned about losing 5% of your income through theft that you're willing to lose 20 to 30% of your business just by including such tight controls that you're making your business such a pain in the butt.
So Web 8895 has said 18 times, what about the struggling small guy getting pirated? You're missing the entire point here. First of all, there's plenty of struggling small people. You make a business model that doesn't require you to play whack-a-mole. Otherwise, you're going to get screwed. So if you set up a business model, basically an old school business model that requires DRM, you're screwed. Forget it. Period. Regardless.
DRM is different. I mean, there are some success stories on people who managed to sell their content on the Kindle store and on the iBook store. They are getting a pretty okay trade. The Kindle store and the iBooks and the iOS store say that you have to control all your stuff via DRM. However, we will make it easy for people to find your content. We'll make it easy for people to pay for your content. If you are struck by a bolt from the gods and for some reason we put you in the top 10 list or give you a profile tile on the top page, that's going to translate into sales too. So given that DRM is something that's pretty much invisible to Kindle owners, given that they don't have 2 or 3 different devices, if they have different devices, they have devices that can be supported directly by the Kindle app. DRM is a total non-factor in their buying decision, and it has a real benefit to these independent authors who don't already have a built-in audience. But I agree with you that in general, the more there's the old saying that a market is like an egg, that you don't control it by squeezing tighter. Yeah. If you squeeze tightly, you lose it completely.
Well, I just know when you criminalize this stuff, it turns people into criminals. So it's completely the opposite effect, and it's not working. So, Nilay comes from a legal background where. In which there is always a compromise position, right? That's how politics works. There's always a middle ground, and he's right. The polarization prevents that kind of compromise. But where I disagree with him is that such a compromise exists. And I think the truth is it doesn't even matter. What will end up happening as a result of, if SOPA passes, is merely that there'll be a second-tier internet where it's already happening. There's a Firefox plugin now that goes around it. So what'll happen is there'll be that we technologists will just say, well, screw you. You can have your little government-run internet, and we'll see you later. And I think that's really what'll end up happening. It'll stratify the internet, and there'll be an internet that non-sophisticated users use that is censored, just as there is in China. And then there'll be an internet that is wide open and that they can't do anything about. And there's no, I don't see. I understand what Neil I was saying was you can't go to Congress and say you're wrong. You have to come up with you have to go to Congress and say here's what we propose. And I don't disagree. I think that if you want Congress to play along, you have to. Right. But there isn't. I don't know what you give them. And he never came up with anything. He never said, well, here's my proposal. He said, well, I'm sure one exists.
I mean, the bottom line is for those of us who are paying attention, is that, we just have to remember that for the most part, not always, but for the most part, most of these representatives are, highly sensitive to criticism. That this is a democracy. They want everyone to like them. And so the thing is that you can't just stop them by blistering. If you just hammer them, with massive amounts of upset. Email, by the way, is very ineffective because it's easy for them to ignore.
Snail mail and phone calls.
Snail mail and phone calls is how you get their attention. Yep. And when they can't make a phone, when they can't pick up the phone, if they can just keep on. Every time they pick up the phone, there's someone that's upset about it. They're not going to vote for it. And that's the bottom line.
By the way, and I keep hearing this one too. Well, Leo, what if somebody edited out all of your commercials and put it on YouTube? Go ahead. Please do. In fact, the license allows you to do that. Our license on all of our shows is you may do anything you want with them for non-commercial purposes as long as you put attribution in. And that includes editing out all the commercials and reposting them. It's my opinion that our audience wants us to succeed. It's one of the reasons our commercials work is because our audience actually goes out and uses the products as a way of supporting the program. So please be my guest, CMMTS. Go right ahead.
We haven't been able to figure out your audio issue. Do you want Jammer B to plug in and troubleshoot before the show?
No, I don't. I don't think I'm going to be playing any audio. Okay. So.
All right. And if so, I can.
Because I know if I do that, they'll pull us off YouTube.
Okay.
I'm so tempted just to withdraw from YouTube. I feel like we should make a statement that if YouTube is going to be this way, we're just not going to participate. I really feel like that's how we should do it. But. No, that's exactly right, Web 5190. If you want to rebroadcast or HD stream, you are absolutely free to do so. So this is another example. So he's saying, well, if you do a pay HD stream, you're going to have to shut down people who rebroadcast it. No, because the only reason it's pay is because the bandwidth. If you want to rebroadcast it, please do. Be my guest. I would love that. That would be great. I encourage you to do that. People don't understand. They really don't get it.
Yeah.
They think that that you have to fight piracy, and any business model that doesn't account for piracy happening is not going to work because piracy happens. Period.
True. But I'm reminding one of the least pleasant little talk sort of debates I've ever had in public. It was at the University of Colorado, talking about the future copyright with a lawyer who had never written anything but knew the law inside and out. So so he always said, "Oh, there's no legal basis for this, and there should be the federal government should not give any protection to." And then every time, it was him, me, and another author saying, "Well, how do we go about writing something? If we put 2 years into writing a novel, how do we make sure that someone can't simply take that?" Publish it themselves, do a couple of search and replaces and turn into a zombie pirate vampire novel with 20 minutes for the effort, and they make the money. We don't because they have better distribution and a better audience. He says, well, that's your problem. You should be happy that your work is being shown in front of a larger audience. And that was the point where I'm like, wow. I didn't have an answer to it because it just seems so silly. But I'm sorry. I'm trying to restrain myself because I know that this is like an issue where if I don't think 4 times, I say twice as stupid things. But all I'm saying is that there's a difference between the way that you do your business, because by the time that video is on YouTube, you've already sold the advertising, you've already gotten the check for the advertising. It's perfectly true for your business, but for other people's business, it's possible that by the time something is taken out of the sales context they originally put them in and put it on YouTube, they get a little bit of attention maybe, but they definitely lose whatever money that they were going to make from sales.
The problem is inside.
And if the added attention was going to be a net benefit to them, and I do believe that in the end, the more people see your work, the more people are liable to pay for your work. That should be that person's choice about whether or not they want to take that risk.
You know, the thing is that inside of the system, we talk about the little guy getting screwed. Inside of this whole system, I used to work for Sony Music, and it got to a point where I had so many friends that had been, not necessarily by Sony, but had been so screwed over by the record companies,
right,
that I wouldn't even try to get them signed. Like I wasn't going to be part of that system. I wasn't going to be part of helping them. I didn't know how at 20 years ago there was no other way to do it. But I watched my friends lose rights to all of the songs that they had been working on for years. To MCA or whatever, and then MCA decides not to publish the album, but they're not going to give up the rights, and they're and so now these guys can't publish what they had been building for a decade, and these are the kind of things that happen all the time, and so that's inside of a system that's supposed to help the little guy. Is basically Hollywood, and I mean not all of Hollywood, but they're a big chunk of Hollywood and a big chunk of the music industry is just full of vipers, and it's just and there's always exceptions. I have friends in New York and friends in Hollywood and friends in the music industry that I know are exceptions to this rule. But man, when people talk about, I'm going to go get my script, I'm going to take my script to Hollywood, and I'm like, yeah, and you're going to show it around, and someone else is going to get they're going to make a movie that looks just like your script, and you're not going to get anything for it.
I just say be a realist and consider the world we live in and come up with a business model that works. There's a great post by Trey Ratcliffe on Google+, 5 reasons why I don't care if my stuff is pirated, a new way of thinking. Read it. Here's a guy who puts all his very beautiful photography up, unprotected, Creative Commons, and does just fine, by the way. Just fine.
Yep.
So my suggestion, you don't have to believe what I say, but my suggestion, if you're a content creator, is to think of a business model that works in a modern world instead of trying to set the clock back to a pre-internet world so that your business model works. You cannot take the world and bend it to your business model. You have to bend your business model to the world.
Well, but I want to say something. S Surfer says, good for him. He's established. How do you get established? You get established by...
He was not established. Trey made himself established using the internet doing this.
But it's not something that you're going to... If you have an idea for a book, the part of this business model is I'm going to then spend a year or 2 years developing a reputation, doing something in the community that I'm trying to work inside of, doing something. You have to get your name out, to establish yourself takes a lot of work. And that's the thing that people,
And he used all of these tools, including giving away his photographs, to establish himself. Trey is a perfect example of a guy who did not come through traditional means. He came up through the internet, and he used Google+, Facebook, and Twitter, his website, and gave away photos from day one. So that's the point. Justine is another great example. I mean, I can give you, it's interesting. People get I don't know why people get so upset by this. It's just, it's kind of almost the physical universe. It's just the way it is.
Justine Ezerick is a good example because no matter how crazy some of her videos are, you need to understand, as someone who knows her fairly well, nothing about her is an accident.
She's brilliant.
She is brilliant. I mean, there is nothing. There's nothing accidental.
She's an example of a young person who used the way it is as a business model, rather than saying, "Let's see, I'm going to come up with a business model and then try to bend the internet to my will." She was sitting. It's really straightforward. I don't know. And people say, "Oh well, someday there'll be a technological solution." I don't. That's not the point. The world is the way it is. Think of how you can make yourself work with the world the way it is. It's life. It's people beat their heads. I see this all the time in all sorts of realms. People beat their heads against reality, saying, no, it shouldn't be that way. Instead of saying, okay, this is how it is. What works in that context?
Right.
That's all I'm saying. But, you know, we got to talk about Macintosh here. Before we go on, though, I got to explain why there's a stripper pole right here. It's not a stripper pole. It's Festivus, my friends.
If it was a stripper pole, it'd be glossy.
That's right. It'd be brassy.
But you can see that it is very dull looking.
It's an aluminum pole because George Costanza and his father, Frank, don't like to decorate the pole for Christmas. They celebrate, instead of Christmas, instead of Kwanzaa, instead of winter solstice, instead of Hanukkah, they celebrate Festivus for the rest of us. And actually, I had to look this up. First of all, I came in, and I said, what the hell is that doing there? Did Brent forget to take something down? And John goes, it's Festivus. I got to point out, you put it in such a way that's coming straight out of my head. Okay, there, I'll sit like this. And I said, of course, it's Festivus. We got to celebrate Festivus. If you don't know what Festivus is, you can read about it on Wikipedia. It was actually predates Seinfeld. I didn't know that. The Seinfeld writer, Dan O'Keefe, who put that in the script, actually, his dad started Festivus years before. They celebrated that in his family, so it was real. Anyway.
Oh, actually, I did have this handy, and I didn't know I should ask.
Oh my
before.
gosh!
I kind of like just wear this around my neck.
Yeah, on Dasher, on Prancer,
so that every time that I make the slightest movement during the show, I'll be making a noise. So every time I take a drink, I'll also be like making a noise. I just wanted to ask first to see if that was going to be like really annoying for the listeners and for everybody else.
Not at all. We love it.
There you go.
It's very Festivus.
All you need is a red nose, and you could be Ihnatko, the red-nosed. Where did you get those? Are actual sleigh bells. Those are not like some cheap Christmas decoration.
This is the real. You gotta have a horse in order to.
Does it smell like a horse?
Yeah.
It's made out of leather, baby.
I can wear this like an ascot. I got so many bells here. So.
Is that a family thing that was handed down, or did you find that at the MIT flea market?
I came across this in my travels, asked if somebody wanted it, and someone did not want it, to my shock and horror. And I said, well, you're not throwing this out. I'm taking this home.
Of course, the person he was asking was a horse. Yeah, didn't say anything, did he?
Hangs on the back of my door year round, and only today did I realize, oh, wait a minute, I could actually like take this off the door and have fun with it. Yay.
Oh, lordy. All right, we do, there is a little bit of
news day, you betcha.
The reason we do best ofs, and next week we're going to do a best of MacBreak Weekly. We've got some highlights from the year, and stuff. But the reason we do that is because this is usually a very dead time. I mean, who's going to, nobody's doing anything. I don't even think that they probably shut Cupertino down this time of year. So, but there's a few things, and we'll talk about those in just a second. How about that?
That's perfect.
How about that for a tease? Something must have happened this week, and we'll find out about it in a bit. But first, a word about Hover. Hover, I haven't talked about Hover in a while, and I should mention this. A lot of times, I don't know, do you do this? You're listening or you're thinking, or sometimes I do this in the shower. I go, that would be a great domain name. And I say, I got to register that domain name.
Do you hover in the shower?
I hover in the shower. Yes, I do. The last time that happened, Jennifer and I were at dinner, and what did she come up with? She said, we actually registered this at dinner.
This is going to be good.
It was some weird. Something about tunics. Tunic time. I think it was tunictime.com. She wanted to do a online tunic store. I don't know. She gets these ideas, and she actually made me register it. Now the good news is I have a Hover account, so I went right to my Hover account on my smartphone, on my iPhone, and I created Tunic Time. I think it's Tunic. Let me just see here. This is my Hover account. By the way, the Hover domain management console is fantastic. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to macbreak.hover.com to register your domains from now on. You just type, Tunic Time, and you could choose, .com, but they'll also give you the others. Now, actually, there's something cool that Hover's doing that nobody else does, and I want to show you this. Gosh darn it, I'm still having trouble with Chrome. Do you guys ever have trouble with Chrome on the Mac? It's really slow.
In Lion, yes.
It's Lion and Chrome.
Yeah. Lion and Chrome do not get along.
I have to go back to Safari. Anyway, so here, notice, tunictime.net is available. I have tunictime.com. So they make some suggestions. And see the star? It's a premium domain. So this is something that they're doing new that I really like. Somebody owns tunictees.com, but is willing to sell it, and they've actually set a price. Now, this is great for people like me. Actually, for anybody, you don't want the price to go up just because you're inquiring about it, right?
Right.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte from Twit. I'm wondering if twit.com is available. Yes, it is. $1 million. So you don't want to do that. So they've already set the price, and you see it right there. So normally, it's very affordable to register a domain name from Hover. But this particular company, tunictees.com, wants $1,788. I don't know where they came up from that. So that's a premium domain name. And this is really cool. Now, if you upgrade to a premium domain, here's tunicablog.com. I think they're overpricing tunicablog.com. Timely, tunictop.net. Tunica Biloxi.
Evidently, that's very valuable.
Cheaptimes.com. That would be good. I'd get cheaptimes.com. That's a deal at $15.99. Anyway, if you can register one of these premium domains and trade in your clunkers. So, in a little while, it's going to become apparent that tunictime.com is in fact not the big money maker that we thought it was, and we're going to want to get rid of it. And I can trade in my clunker domain name if I bought it on a Hover, get all the money I spent at Hover back. So when you search for domains at Hover, domains that were previously purchased but available for sale come up in the search results with those stars. You could purchase those domain names anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s, and you can trade in your old clunkers at hover.com. If you want to upgrade your domain, they'll credit you with everything you spent on your old clunker with Hover, including the original registration fee and any renewal fees. That is pretty cool. I like that idea because we all have clunker domain names.
I have lots of those.
Yes.
I have a large collection. I get the updates, and I'm like, really? When did I do that? But then you don't want to give it up.
Transfers, if you've got existing domains, only $10, and you get an additional year, so it's a very good deal. They even have a transfer concierge service. Mention you heard this on MacBreak Weekly. They'll do that for you for free, I believe. They still do that. The concierge transfer service is great.
Is that the concierge that helps you get it out of register? Or?
Yeah, you could do it. If you're on some other domain host, you can get out of it with a lot of clicking. In fact, I keep screwing it up, so I keep getting my domain locked.
I have a couple that are...
GoDaddy locks it if you start doing it, and then it's like, well, you can have it in 3 months. What?
Right.
So I learned my lesson. Normally, it's $25 for as many domains as you want to transfer, but I believe they waive that fee if you call them and say you're coming in from MacBreak. 1-866-731-6556. It's at MacBreak.
I'm going to call them and tell them I'm coming in from MacBreak. I still have some that are sitting over at GoDaddy.
They do. It's so nice. They just do it all, and it's like let them deal with that and it's all the weirdness. MacBreak.hover.com, and let's see, what else should I tell you about this? Oh, they have that no hold policy when you call them during business hours. Their customer service hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. When you call them at those times, once you get a live person, they will not put you on hold. And 10% off when you use the code MacBreak at checkout. Can we make this any more sexy and hot and desirable?
Use the poll.
Use the poll, Leo.
Use the
and
poll.
We have a show title.
MacBreak.hover.com. Let's see here. So I guess one story that's kind of germane to us is that the T-Mobile merger of AT&T is dead. We talked about this on Sunday, and Eli was saying, I don't even understand what they're doing. The FCC has already said no, and so they said, okay, well, we withdraw our application, FCC. And, technically they withdrew it before they said no. But it's like...
And talk about, I think, isn't the cost like $4 billion?
$4 billion cancellation. Yep. There's $3 billion in cash and $1 billion in spectrum that goes to Deutsche Telekom if that doesn't happen, and so it didn't happen. And in fact, Neil who's the lawyer, right, on Sunday said, this whole thing doesn't make any sense. Why are they pursuing this with the Department of Justice and the courts? He said even AT&T in their filings couldn't really explain it, and he was right. It's dead. But what happens to T-Mobile now? I mean, they're really just a lame duck, aren't they?
With $4 billion more than they had before.
Well,
they were a lame duck before. Now they have $4 billion in their lame duck. I'd rather have the $4 billion.
I actually like having T-Mobile around because that's the SIM that I put into all the unlocked Android phones. I like the
I have to say that I have different devices that have Verizon, AT&T, and Sprint. I don't have a T-Mobile one. Mm-hmm. Sprint is such a joke. Like, I mean, you know, like, okay, so the thing is like, how are these guys still in business? You know, I'm in Washington D.C. and it tells me I'm on data roaming. Like, I get this data roaming message on my Android, on my Galaxy. I'm like, I understand data roaming like in Canada. I understand it in Europe.
Apparently, Sprint doesn't have it. Washington D.C.
I was like, it's not like I'm in the country. You know, and you know, I'm anyway. I don't understand how those guys are still in business. That's all I have to say.
You know, the interesting story here is, and that somebody in the chat room just said this, T-Mobile is expanding its frequencies to include iPhone-compatible frequencies. They're the one carrier in the U.S. that doesn't have the iPhone. Maybe that's a sign that they will be getting.
Doesn't matter. Don't do it. Like if you're listening to the show, don't use Sprint. I mean, you know, the thing is I don't care.
I was talking about T-Mobile.
Oh, T-Mobile. I'm sorry.
You really hate them, don't you?
I'm so angry. I'm so angry that I could have got.
Is that your only phone? You didn't bring a
Sprint?
No, I have an iPhone. I mean, you know, but
you're being unfair. Remember that Sprint was the first telecom company to fully invest in WebOS and to turn it into the telecom titan that it is right now.
That's true.
And without that respect for innovation and novelty, we would have one less phone to laugh at.
I'm actually scared because I'm going somewhere tonight that I called ahead. They say, oh, no, you can't use your cell phone here. The entire town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, I said Verizon, no. Sprint, no. AT&T, no. T-Mobile, no. No cell phone works. How could a town in this country, in this day and age, actually have no cell phone access? They said you have to go to the edge of town to use your cell phone.
Wi-Fi.
You got Stockbridge is definitely a town that would think, build a big ugly tower in the middle of our beautiful Berkshires. No.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're not even going to. And we're also godless heathens, so we don't have any church steeples into which to install cell repeaters.
So one of the questions I have is so FaceTime is all fine and dandy, but why doesn't Apple just allow us to make phone calls?
I know.
You know, because the thing is that so we were in.
Well, can't you use Skype? You can use Skype on Wi-Fi.
You can use Skype, but I just want to be able to. Anybody who has an iPhone, you know, so like my daughter went to Tokyo with me.
Oh, fun. What a nice idea.
And I got her this little, we rented. So, by the way, if you go to Tokyo and you want internet access, you know, like wireless, there's a company they're like kind of long, and they're basically like MiFis, but they actually work. And because I don't know about your MiFi, my 4G MiFi, is dropping constantly. Like it constantly isn't working. And the Japanese version of this, of course, as you might expect, works like, it's bigger. It's like, it was really big. Works really well, but because she was traveling all over, I just gave her a Pasmo card and just said, "Enjoy Tokyo."
Oh, you're kidding!
You know,
How old is she?
17.
Does she speak Japanese?
No.
So was she able to do that?
She was.
Good for her. Wow, that's a brave 17-year-old.
I got this.
So cool.
I got this text message or iMessage or whatever that says, "I'm in Akihabara." You know, and checking stuff out. And I was like, I don't know if you want to be there at night. So anyway, but
that's so cool.
Did
she start using emojis?
No, she didn't start using the emojis. No, but she was just kind of, she was going to Shibuya and she was going to all over the place. But the only way she could call me, so I gave her, I rented this thing and I used it when I was working, but when I was near Wi-Fi, I just let her take it. And she'd FaceTime me, if she needed to call me, because that was, it was a Wi-Fi thing. And she was FaceTiming her brother in Pennsylvania and FaceTiming people all over the place. And you're just wondering why you can't just, I'm assuming there's some kind of contractual thing that Apple has about not, because you seem like you just want to just call people and just have it use the Wi-Fi to make the phone call.
Seems obvious, but remember, they have to make deals with carriers. This was the thing I always had hoped that Apple would do before they released the iPhone, is just not deal with the carriers. Just make a phone, an unlocked GSM phone, and not in fact, I was hoping that somebody Apple or Google would just buy some Spectrum and just say, here, use this.
But I mean, at this point, with solid Wi-Fi, you could do it. And with one of these wireless pieces, we were in Ihnatko, which is in the middle of really Japanese nowhere. I mean, it's like it's really, and we were sitting by these little snow monkeys. I think some people saw me post some pictures from the snow monkey sitting in the hot tubs, and I was FaceTiming with my kids here in Petaluma, showing them the monkeys live. From my little, with these little Wi-Fi.
But you can only do it on Wi-Fi. You can't do it on 3G, which is frustrating to me.
It is. It's just that it makes me start wondering whether I just want to have a Wi-Fi hotspot and
just carry that in your pocket. Yeah. Sorry, Andy. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say that. Yeah, I don't think that a Wi-Fi phone would really work, because it's enough of a pain in the butt when I go from coffee shop to library to coffee shop to have to always find the place, sign in, deal with whatever bandwidth restrictions or port restrictions they put onto it. As far as selling unlocked empty SIM phones, that would be great too, but that's not really a very consumer-y experience. I once was trying to advise a friend of mine who was traveling internationally, and I said, well, just go, when you get to Heathrow, you'll find these kiosks where you can buy local SIM cards, have a local phone number. And first I had to start off with, the SIM card is actually connected to the network, and then I had to fall back on, your smartphone has a CPU which sees the world as a series of ones and zeros.
That's a
this
bad
is known
start.
as the binomial theorem, right? I mean, this is not the sort of thing that the average consumer is going to be able to figure out.
Okay, crazy idea. What if Apple bought T-Mobile or Sprint? Because I think both are kind of at play. We talked about this before.
Well, would the government let them do that? And
why
secondly,
not? They're
how would
not
that
a
help?
carrier.
But and secondly, how would that help Apple outside of the USA?
Right.
Are they going to start? I mean, they wind up having to, inevitably, they'd wind up putting in features that can take advantage of the fact that they control both the vertical and the horizontal. And then now it's time to spread this out to the UK. Who are they going to buy in the UK so they can make those features work on that local network?
All right.
I think Apple's not. I think what could happen is you could have a CEO with a really good Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs style vision who said, I'm taking over Sprint. I've heard Alex tell that we're worthless. I agree. So we're going to basically burn the ground and start off from scratch. We're going to create one phone. We're going to use WebOS to power it. Again, no joke. It is actually a very good operating system. But we're going to spend basically a year doing our own branded phone that only works on our network, but can make the OS, the apps, and the network work together in such intimacy that we can blow away anything else that wants to do that. And if it means that we can't really have a reach outside the United States of America, there are a lot of Americans with a lot of money willing to buy a lot of stuff. We can be happy with that.
I think if you bought, I agree, Sprint's a problem because it's CDMA, but if you bought T-Mobile, and I'm sure it will end up being, sold off in some way. Deutsche Telekom clearly doesn't want to be in the U.S. If you bought T-Mobile's Spectrum and made an unlocked phone, and you could have it automatically work for T-Mobile.
I just think if you
and it would work globally, right? I mean, it would. That's just you don't have to have a carrier elsewhere.
If you had $40 billion to spend,
which you do,
but if I was going to spend $40 billion, I would build Wi-Fi mesh networks in the top 20 countries in the world.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
where you go.
Because the thing is you would just
here's the problem. Wi-Fi doesn't have the handoff that cell phone systems have.
But you can build a mesh. You can build a mesh network that thinks it's it's kind of like you can build a mesh network that thinks that it's one Wi-Fi connection.
Okay.
And so you build those for entire cities. You don't try to go into the country. You just build them for the top 20 cities, and you will strip AT&T and Verizon to the ground because
I agree.
Because they spend all that time trying to make sure that they're covering 90% of the country, but most of the population sits in top that use your iPhone and everything else sit inside of these large cities, and you'd strip their system.
Now, Kai Kev in the chat room is talking about this Republic Wireless that is a Wi-Fi phone company. Republic Wireless clarifies network limits for $20 wireless. That's from bandwidth.com. Unlimited text, data, and voice for $20 using Wi-Fi. And then if it kicks you off the network if you consume too much cellular capacity.
Okay, whatever.
It's on the Sprint network, I guess.
All right.
That's bizarre.
I think all you had to say was it was on the Sprint network.
Your favorite.
Not that I'm bitter.
Did Mr. Sprint burn down your grandpappy's farm, and there's been like this feud?
I'm just angry that I went and bought a Sprint. I went and bought a Sprint. My Galaxy was Sprint. I was like, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to experiment with Sprint. Yeah, but I mean, I travel.
If you ever go to Kansas City, you'll love it. I'm just telling you. So, continuing on in the conversation, this is a huge one, and I wish I could be happy about this. I guess if you're an Apple enthusiast, you might be. Apple has won the first anti-Android lawsuit. It's not a huge victory, but it could be significant. HTC, the International Trade Union, or Commission, I'm sorry, ITC, has ruled that HTC did violate Apple's patents with regard to clicking a link in an email to open another program. And this could, in effect, I guess it does,
I think the big issue is
HTC handsets. HTC says we have a workaround for it, and we'll implement that. But for right now, this is the first in these lawsuits that is a solid victory for Apple.
And the issue is, it's not just HTC's specific implementation. It is really going after Android itself.
Yeah,
and that's the real challenge.
And of course, as Steve Jobs said in the Isaacson book, he's not interested in licensing deals.
Right.
He wants to kill Android. So I have to presume that this ITC ban is not going to be, resolved by a license fee. It's going to be HTC has to fix it. This is huge. It includes the International Trade Commission has now banned the Sprint Evo 4G, the Droid Incredible, the AT&T Aria, and the T-Mobile G2. The patent issued in 1999 covers 1999.
14 years.
Yeah.
So it's
almost out.
Yeah,
and well before the iPhone came out, covers a device. I bet Apple bought this. I bet this is one of them portfolio patents. Covers a device that scans computer text for data, like a phone number, and turns that number into a link that the user can select to perform an act like calling the number. The ITC decision now goes to President Obama, who has 60 days to issue a veto if he should choose, rarely used, according to Nilay Patel on TheVerge.com. The ban would then go into effect April 19th, 2012. So it doesn't mean you can't get those phones now, but in April...
But it calls into a question, I think that the problem that Android continues to have is that until these lawsuits are solved, when you're trying to buy a phone, you just have to keep in mind that a lot of this stuff... most of us don't... it depends on how long you plan to keep the phone. But I do think this is dangerous. I think that I like my iPhone, but I do think that it's important for the ITC and other companies and other parts of the government to realize that if they killed Android, the result would be an absolute monopoly.
Well, that's an interesting question. Do they think that? Do they think about that, or are they just merely ruling on the legality?
I think they can only
of the patent. They're not saying, "Well, let's protect this, even though this is a good patent. Let's protect."
No, they can't. They can't. But I think that's where Obama has to look at it, when Congress has to look at it.
You're right. He could.
The thing is that it is dangerous to have one company, and the issue is because of the competition between Android and the iPhone and the iOS is that they've killed off almost everything else. If Android for some reason becomes invalidated, it would leave Apple with an absolute monopoly.
Here's why this pisses me off. So what HTC's response is, okay, that's fine. It's only a small part of the UI. We're going to remove it from HTC phones. So they'll send out a patch that says, okay, no problem. You see an email with a phone number or an email address, you can no longer click it. So who gets screwed? Me! Users. It means that our HTC phones will be less useful. Thanks, Apple. All right, Andy, I know what you're going to say, so I'm going to let you say it. Should I tell you? Should I tell you what you're going to say?
No. See, this is cool because I'm thinking now this is just like the Newlywed Game. I flip over my card, and this is what Leo thought I was going to say. It's not as dire as that. I think that Apple's philosophy is just that if there's a vulnerability in a patent, they have to defend that patent. I do think that HTC, every maker that's affected by this is going to find a way to work around it that doesn't involve removing the ability to dial a phone just by tapping on a number and a link. That's so broad a patent that it's probably I don't understand the law, but I've been reading blogs from other lawyers who've been taking a look at this and saying that it's not the basic concept of doing that feature. It is in the way that this has been implemented.
So maybe they could implement it in some way that would be non-infringing.
Right.
Good. Well, that would be a relief.
The agreement is that it's scary only in the sense that it's rare that something this potentially far-reaching has actually made it this far through the court system. That's actually gotten a judge to agree that something this simple can result in a product not being available for sale or being vulnerable to this sort of a legal attack.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to affect anybody, but basically, I think that its most chilling effect is that it will make Apple and other companies feel a lot bolder. They've tested the waters; they found it very, very warm and cozy with a gentle scent of jasmine, and now a lot of people are going to want to get in that same really, really vile tub.
It doesn't, for some reason, affect Android 2.3 and up. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe they do it differently. I understand it. Somebody in the chat room said, "Well, if you're not going to defend a patent, why even have a patent system? This is the system." And I guess I understand that, and I guess I don't blame Apple. I just feel like what ends up happening is you screw consumers by taking out, I think, a very useful feature.
I think this is really a personal thing.
It's very personal.
Yeah, that was my feeling too. It's a very tacky sort of maneuver. It's a very low class. It's not the sort of thing that an industry leader would do. It's one thing for them to say, look, this Samsung phone looks almost exactly like the iPhone. Someone who is not terribly sophisticated about the differences between two phones would think that this was the phone that their friend has, their friend really, really loves, because it does look so much like an iPhone that it could be just a straightforward knockoff. I hope that most people wouldn't be offended if Apple goes after that for that kind of confusion. But when they get into this nitpicky stuff where they just see, here is a tiny crack that we can just try to hammer a wedge into and expand and create more and more problems for this and interfere with these people's ability to sell phones that compete with the iPhone, that's just a very, very tacky thing for them to do.
That wedge hammering rang your bells, by the way.
Exactly.
Well, I do think that it still comes down to this is something from Steve, to some degree, but while I was there, but I think that it's not just anybody, and it's not just attacking any patent.
It's Android.
It's specifically, we were partnered with this company. They didn't, they either didn't tell us or they developed it. And they, there are people at Apple that feel screwed, and they will use every legal avenue to sort that out.
And that's reflected in the comment that they made, which is a reiteration of what they've said over and over again. Let me see if I can scroll down in Eli's article. This is at TheVerge.com. Apple's response was, "We think competition is healthy, but competitors should create their own original technology, not steal ours." And when you use a loaded phrase like steal, that's exactly what you're saying. That's like...
Well, that caught my eye, too. It almost seems as though that's a keyboard macro that Steve himself programmed last year. And they're still going by the same keyboard macro system.
Do you think, on a larger note, that Apple will change in some of this scorched earth philosophy with Steve gone, that perhaps Tim Cook and others might say, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do this? Or will they just say, this is Steve started it, we got to finish it?
I think they'll finish it.
I'm not sure if they will realize that this wasn't something that was started 2 or 3 months ago. This is the long end of a long process that started, when was it, 2 years ago? It started a while ago. So I think that we'll get our answer maybe a year and a half or 2 years from now. I just can't see Apple deciding that this is a productive avenue for them to pursue. Again, there's large problems that they can attack legally. These small things are just, when you're exactly 1 percentage point ahead of the number 2 provider, and you're making razor slim margins so that every 10,000 units you sell is going to define whether you have a good quarter or a bad quarter. Yes, this is the sort of stuff that you do. This is not the sort of stuff you do when you're making so many billions and billions and billions of dollars every single year, when you're just hammering the profitability every other consumer electronics manufacturer, not just in your product categories, but every product categories. But I think that if you drop a penny, it lands in a sewer. You don't lay on your belly and get out gum on a string and try to get that penny out of the sewer. It's not that.
But
I think that
you're
Apple
pissed.
But I think also Apple has seen this before, and it was in the 80s. So the thing is they've seen this thing where someone else comes in with another operating system, copies a lot of their ideas, and then eventually takes over, a market that they theoretically own. Now, I believe that a large portion of that was because they let Steve go, and then they were kind of in a situation where they didn't have any real leadership. But the point is that I think that they're going to fight tooth and nail, specifically because of their history. And I think that's part of their DNA is that in the 80s they had the lead and they lost it to another company. And I don't think that I think they're going to use every avenue, because the problem is the legal costs for Apple to do this are, a rounding error in their income,
especially since they have a whole building full of lawyers. They can just keep this.
Anyway. They can keep this running for the next 10 years, and they wouldn't notice it. So I think that's why it most likely they'll continue to throw matches at that fire.
So the Apple rumor of the week coming up in just a moment. This is the best rumor ever. Just the best rumor ever. I just love it. And it comes from no less than the New York Times, so it's got to be true. We'll also talk about Apple's big $400 million acquisition and a lot more. But right now, I'd like to talk a little bit about Ford Motor Company. We got a great look at last week at some great Ford automobiles, the Focus, the Fiesta. Somebody, not me, got to drive the 2012 Mustang. Did you drive it?
No, I was out of
I never
the
even
country.
saw it. It was here for 4 days, and it was just like it was gone.
I think they should send it back so that we can continue to review it.
But one of the things I got to do was take a look at the 2012 Ford Focus and the My Ford Touch, and this new thing called Sync Services. Let's take a look.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte here for This Week in Tech. You know, you've heard me talk about my 2010 Ford Mustang and how much I love Ford Sync. The folks at Ford have just lent me the new 2012 Ford Focus.
Sweet
This
car.
has got my Ford Touch as well as the Ford Sync and some really nice new features, including Wi-Fi. It's got the Ford services, the Sync services, and App Link, which allows me to play apps right from my phone. I thought I'd take you for a little ride and show you some of the things it can do. Come on. Let me just show you this screen. I'm going to keep it, I usually keep it on this, the home screen. You see all of this stuff here very easily, but the point is not to look at this screen or even touch the screen. The point is you're driving down the road, you want to keep your hands on the wheel, your eyes on the road, but I want to, let's say, find somewhere I'm going to go. So I press this paddle here. That's the signal to get Sync to listen to me. Listen. Street address.
In California, say a street address including the city.
140 Keller Street, Petaluma.
That's the Twit Brick House.
Say a line number.
1. So again, I haven't touched the screen. I haven't done anything.
You don't actually even have
talk
to look at
it.
the screen.
I'm going to press this button. Set as destination.
Setting destination.
And we're on our way. But let's say we're lost. We want to go somewhere.
That happens to me a lot.
Destination POI.
By name or by category.
By name.
POI name.
Jack in the Box.
I was hungry.
So now it's going to find.
I want
all
some
the
onion
Jack
rings.
in the boxes, but there's a number of them, so I could pick which one I want.
Please choose.
Line 1.
You do have to look to see the line.
Set
You're
as
right. That's a good
destination.
point.
Setting new destination.
And then the music comes back.
Now
and
we
then
got a map, and it's going to walk me through it, and we're on our way to Jack in the Box.
The route guidance will start now.
Thank you.
She's so pleasant.
Steely Dan.
I've wanted to do this for a while, just kind of show you how it works. Now, I had the full voice prompts on that one, but you can actually turn the voice prompts off, and they're much shorter. You get to do it. You know, as you get used to it, you need less.
Which car was that?
help. That was the Focus. That's
really nice
that's a
car.
gas Focus, but I'm going to get the electric Focus as soon as those are out. Which is, I think they started building them this week. Last week they started building them, so I'm very excited. Anyway, take a look at Ford's amazing technology in their cars by going to Ford.com/technology. You know the best way to do this? Drive a 2012 Ford Focus. Drive one at a Ford dealer near you. We thank Ford for their support. I'm so excited. I'm going to have dinner with Alan Mullally. By the way, Eileen, we got to talk because that's during Showstoppers. I'm going to have to rearrange my.
I already arranged it.
Did you? I could do PepCom, and we'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out
off the air.
Sarah's going to cover for you now.
Is she?
Yeah.
Because you can't. You know, when the CEO of Ford says, "Would you like to have dinner?"
Absolutely.
You can't really say
You can't say no.
no. Even if they weren't a sponsor, I would say yes because that's kind of a treat.
Offer to pick him up in your 10-year-old like off a foreign car. They might just say, we can do. Oh, Leo, we have to do better for you than this. You shouldn't be driving a Subaru.
I just want everybody to know I bought my Mustang. I did not use a friends and family discount. I actually went to the dealer. I didn't even haggle. I just said, what do you want? I'm so bad at that. And I just said, here, I'll take it. And I love that Mustang. I love that Mustang, baby. So this is, first let's talk about Anobit, which is a company an Israeli flash memory company that Apple is buying for, we've heard the rumor for a while, but now it's true, for I think almost $500 million.
No, they don't make the flash, they design them, right? They're a research
Yes, it's a fabless chip designer. They don't actually make them, they design them. They will set up a semiconductor development center in Israel, where Anobit is located. Anobit designed components are used on both the iOS devices and the MacBook Air. They have something called memory signal processing, which makes flash memory more reliable. They don't use, it's not DRAM, it's NAND flash. And I guess it's used on the solid-state drives and the flash RAM in the iOS devices. So that's kind of cool. It's not so to get a little bit more technical, because I know we have a pretty technical audience. We've talked before about something called trim. So there isn't fragmentation doesn't happen on SSDs in the way that it happens on spinning drives, because SSDs, the data is actually distributed all over, and there is no access time. It's instant access.
Full of awesomeness is what it is.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons it's very fast. But there is a problem that happens with SSDs in terms of, as you use the drive, they do slow down a little bit. And I actually talked to two guys at Intel last year at CES who work in the flash hard drives. The Intel makes the best SSDs, and the two guys who and they disagreed. One said, "Oh yeah, you should have trim so that you don't have this slowdown." The other said, "It's such a minor slowdown, it doesn't matter." So even experts who make these things disagree about the importance of trim. Trim is in many controllers on solid-state drives. By using the trim command, it has to be in the operating system. You can keep the drive at full speed even after you use it over time. It's like fragmentation, but it's not the same idea. OS X Lion does have trim. But this MSP technology makes it unnecessary, according this is an article in Apple Insider. MSP technology on the firmware level monitors flash memory cells to eliminate bad cells, which isn't exactly what trim does. But apparently, according to Apple Insider, this means trim is less important. It makes components faster. It enables data to be pushed to flash memory at speeds that generate more errors, but can correct the errors. That's kind of cool. So you get cheaper. You can get cheaper SSDs because you can use cheaper RAM, and you can use flash memory in things like phones where price points are critical. Cheaper MLC memory instead of the higher quality SLC RAM. So, Alan Malventano is the guy to ask, and I'm sure he'll have something to say about this on This Week in Computer Hardware on Twitch. But meanwhile, that's my layman explanation of Anobit and why this is a smart acquisition for Apple. I think it's very clear, and after reading the Isaacson book, I got it, that Apple really doesn't like having third-party suppliers. If they
start with that. They start with working with you.
And
then, but the trajectory is that if we like you and we're going to continue to use you, we're going to buy you.
It makes me wonder why Apple doesn't. Well, actually, Steve did in the early days have his own factories even.
Right.
Remember that? They made the Macintosh. They made the Lisa. There's that anecdote about how the Lisa plant, he wanted to paint all the machines, and there's a blue machine that broke all the time because he had it painted blue. It's a funny anecdote. So, anyway, that's that story.
But I think you get into a situation like Foxconn where Apple, they're making it for a lot of other people, and Apple pushing their technology forward by asking them to do certain things makes them better at serving HTC and other folks as well. And I think Apple doesn't like to do that.
Well, that's a good point, right? Now Foxconn is better.
I guess it depends on the part, because they've had success in monopolizing the output of certain factories so tightly that it makes it almost impossible for somebody to create another product that uses the same techniques. If you look at what's been happening with the Intel Ultrabook lines, most of them aren't made out of like milled components. They're not like unibody frame components. They're not, because the manufacturing capacity to make hundreds and hundreds and thousands of these devices is largely supposedly monopolized by Apple. That they don't have the Samsung and ASUS and the rest don't have access to that kind of manufacturing. There have been times when a certain critical part that pretty much every phone manufacturer is using is being tied up. Essentially, Apple bought so many of them so far in advance and locked in those contracts so firmly that just to ensure that everybody who wants an iPhone can get one, they assure that other people who want to make a smaller run of a different phone are probably going to have to wait 2 years before they find a spot in the production schedule. So it's a complicated dance.
Well, to that point, Apple is now completely monopolizing Samsung's new factory in Austin. Samsung just completed a $3.6 billion factory in Austin that does one thing only. It makes A5 chips for Apple, period. That just went into production. It's a 1.6 million square feet factory. It's fully owned by Samsung, but they built it to make the A5, which is used only by Apple.
Yeah.
So that just shows you, Apple buys so much that even if a third party's making it, in effect, that's an Apple factory, right?
Right. Also, I wonder how much this simplifies and speeds along their manufacturing process. The fact that now to get this component around, how does it change the fact that now they have this main plant in Texas? Where do these chips then have to go in order to be assembled into iPads? And does that make things? Does the fact that they can get things certified and checked out within the United States make it easier and faster, or the fact that this thing has to then be shipped halfway across the world to be put into an iPad,
Isn't
then
that
shipped
funny?
all the way back?
They got to send it to China, don't they? Would have been faster to make in Korea. I have to think it has something to do with the tsunami in Japan and the floods in Thailand. That maybe they feel like we ought to have
something somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Are you guys having as much trouble buying hard drives as we are?
No, are you? Well, you buy a lot of hard drives.
We go through a couple terabytes.
I think we stocked up a few months ago. We have like 1,000 hard drives in the basement.
I feel like I order them every day because Amazon only let me buy like 3 at a time.
Right.
So I'm just kind of like, okay, every day we buy 3.
Perfect Face for Radio is pointing out that actually there is a big iPad factory now in Brazil as well. And so maybe they're just sending them to Brazil. But if you think about it, this makes sense. Apple is distributing its production. It's big enough now that they can build a factory in Brazil, a factory in Japan, a factory in China, a factory in Austin, and just distribute it.
I think it's another Foxconn factory in Brazil, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's owned by Foxconn. I think Tim Cook is the genius here. There's no question about it. And Tim has probably figured he's got all the spreadsheets that say it's much better if Foxconn owns it, but we dominate.
Well, and the other thing is that you're basically, by spreading it around, you often are leveraging your relationships with those individual countries when it comes to tax breaks and all kinds of other pieces, and saying, well, we can bring this to you, but we're going to get X, Y, and Z, which can end up saving you hundreds of millions or billions of dollars over time by simply kind of twisting the local governments to allow them to.
And remember, there was a explosion a couple of days ago, right? The Pegatron plant in Shanghai.
Right.
That makes not just Apple stuff, but does make I don't know what they make. Let me check. But 60 workers were injured. It's operated by RITENG Computer Accessory. HP and Asus also make stuff there. The company was in the middle of a trial production of an aluminum iPad 2 back panels when the explosion happened on December 17th. It was at the particle collecting equipment. Yikes. Do you guys, what do you guys think of, there were persistent rumors that workers are mistreated. I think that suicide stat was bogus because it's so many workers at the Foxconn factories that you'd expect a certain percentage. That's not abnormal. But do you feel like Apple is responsive to those kinds of complaints, that they do a good job of protecting the workers, the international workers working on Apple products?
I think the workers in other countries probably don't have the same creature comforts that workers in the United States have. I think that they're probably much better than most of the other factories in their given country. But I don't think it's the same.
Is it unfair to compare their salaries, their conditions to American workers and salaries and conditions? I think it is.
I think you have to look at it. I think you have to look at it from a relative perspective, that you are providing a lot of opportunity there. And obviously, it's not going to, that is their advantage, is that it's cheaper, and they wouldn't be employed otherwise. And so I think that, but I do think that Apple does, especially after the suicides. I think Apple sent people over, was doing a lot of work on trying to make sure that it is as they try to improve the situation. And but I do think that it is it's difficult in those countries.
Yeah. Also, Apple can't divorce themselves from responsibility of what the workers are experiencing, because in so many other industries, other manufacturers can say, well, really, what can we do? There's limited capability. We're just contracting this stuff out. Apple is such a prime mover for the success of these individual companies that if they simply said from now on everybody gets an American style of living, everybody gets full health benefits, everybody gets a retirement fund, they would have to at least sit down and at least negotiate them down to something better, but not quite up to that level.
Well, and the iPad costs $1,000.
Exactly, but
and we're culpable in the sense that we put the pressure on Apple to keep the price down, and that's how you do it.
Yes, but the point is that if I think Apple has wisely never stepped completely back away from responsibility for the working conditions there. They can't. I think they're smart enough to know that they can't just throw up their hands and say, "Well, we have nothing to do with that. We just contract this out. There was nothing we could do, and therefore our hands are kind of tied there." It does make me think, though, about. I think it's a good thing that Apple's moving some of their manufacturing into the United States, but sometimes I worry about when a part of the country becomes a factory town for one industry or one company. It doesn't take a long time for somebody at that company to start thinking, gosh, it would be so much, things would move so much easier for us if this regulation were relaxed just a little bit. And it's not that they have to necessarily lobby or own the congressman who represents that district. All they have to do is simply communicate that, well, the reason why we moved this factory to your district is because we're able to do things profitably and efficiently for ourselves. This pesky little regulation that we're dealing with makes it more difficult for us to keep these thousands of jobs in your district. End of message. The congressman who just wants to make sure that things are okay for the people that he works for would then start to maybe put a little bit more pressure to ease off this regulation, this rule, this concept that would affect the rest of the country. So I don't believe that Apple is the sort of company that would do things that are necessarily bad or evil. But that's always something that's in the back of my sick, twisted, black, bitter, little cynical mind. Every time I start, for every good side that we're bringing, for every good side to bring 5,000 jobs in, that's 5,000 hostages that you have in this congressional district, and that's a lot of pressure. As soon as you start to, even if it is legitimately in your company's best interest to close that plant, that's a big responsibility you have, and a lot of danger you could create just by accident.
And I just want to, I mean, we work hard. You know, we're building training facilities in Africa right now. In Rwanda, we just got funded, and we're working to make sure that those working conditions are really good, actually. But one of the things if people are upset about the way things are being done in China, then check every box that you buy and every piece of clothing or whatever. No. Don't buy anything from China.
Right.
You know, if you really believe that, don't go to Walmart.
Right.
Don't buy anything out of Walmart. Don't buy anything out of Kmart. But you know, and the thing is that people are very good at being holier than thou until they go shopping, and then they want to save some money and they go to Walmart, and they, you know, that's what, you know, and you are paying for that. And you just have to remember as a consumer that, you know, it's not just these corporations. When you decide that you're going to buy stuff from Walmart, you are voting that is okay with you.
Yeah, which makes me sad because I don't think we could do any of the shows that we do if we stopped buying things from China.
Yeah. No. Well, it's a very like young. I won't say young. I would say juvenile instead. Response to say that there's a binary. You have a binary responsibility that you're either doing 100% good or 100% bad. And so if you're not actually employing somebody to polish the insides of shell casings with tiny little children's hands for 1 cent per week, then you must be a wonderful person. That said, it's always good to have an awareness of the cost that oftentimes comes into play by every single consumer choice that we make. We do things on a large scale, we do things on a small scale. So long as you're always responsible for that one piece of trash that you have an opportunity to pick up and put in your pocket and make the world a fraction of a better place, I think your responsibility to do that. Even if you are going to acknowledge that you're not a saint, you just picked up one thing, you didn't solve the entire problem, but at least by thinking a little bit harder and doing at least the least you can do, you can have an effect that if everybody decided to act that way, would create a much better place on Earth.
Yeah, I think it's so easy. It's so tempting to let the perfect be the enemy of the good and say, well, since I can't fix it, I give up.
Well, but when I say, and by the way, I want to say that I'm not saying not to shop at Walmart. You know, I'm not saying not.
I have American-made stuff at Walmart.
But because you know, I shop. What I'm saying is that if you really believe that, then you shouldn't be shopping. You should be paying attention to everything. I look at it as, you know, what tends to happen is that when success happens, you know, development happens behind it. So the thing is that what you're looking at, there's a huge problem in China right now as far as riots and people getting upset, and that is being created by all of this success, because you're having basically a separation where people are getting left behind. The old systems that things are becoming more transparent. The old systems aren't working. So what's actually happening over a long period of time, I think, is going to positively affect the Chinese workers.
I hope so.
Well, because they're getting upset because they're starting to see more of that.
Well, you should see the air quality in Beijing.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
So the thing is that those are those things will over time but it's not going to be immediate.
Right. Yeah. So moving along, enough do-gooder stuff. Let's talk more about cool gadgets. Apparently, Wolfram Alpha has been enlisted to make Siri smarter about buying products. I'm going to try. I haven't tried this before, so I'm going to try this right now. Buy iPhones. So do we have the over-the-head shot?
We do.
Oh, see, that's not what I wanted. Apparently, Wolfram Alpha is incorporating Best Buy.
Move your hand to.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what can the question be that will get this to work. iPhone availability.
Leo, I don't understand. iPhone availability.
Great. Well, Apple Siri can now shop for electronics by voice using Wolfram Alpha, according to this report on Apple Insider. Let me just say Apple iPhones. Apple iPhones. Yeah, see, it's just getting me stores. Somehow you can get Wolfram Alpha to tell you what models there are, what prices there are. I mean, this is pretty cool. How do I do that, though? Okay, look it. Here's a search. Let's try this one. Lightest digital camera under $100 with a pixel resolution greater than 12 megapixels. If that works, I'm going to be blown away.
Actually, I tried doing that, and that didn't work. However, it worked if I said, how much does an iPhone cost?
Ah, that's the search I should be doing.
Here, let me see if we can get it on camera.
I found 3 cameras.
Hello, Mr. Zoomy. There you go. Enjoy my eyeball.
Oh, that's cool. Focus.
So focus.
Zoom in, focus, zoom, center.
Come on.
I get the idea.
Probably because I'm not. Okay, well, I will then give you the audio book. There, maybe you can see that a little bit better.
This is only
the audio
US,
book. Yeah, there's a Wolfram Alpha that says median is $699.99, highest is $899.
That's cool.
The lowest is $79, parentheses, Apple iPhone 3G with 8 gigabytes of memory. Regular price rankings from 1 to 32, model by model. Apple iPhone 4S with 64 gigs, white, $899, 64 gigs in black, $899, zooming down. Currency conversions to that would be
wow.
That would be 535 euros, 447 British pounds.
That's nice.
Wow, it's almost $10,000 in pesos. I don't know why they put the dollar sign in front of this. Is peso simple a dollar sign? Anyway.
You know what? Here's why I mention it. I think this is encouraging because what it's showing is that Apple is increasing the capabilities of Siri. That it isn't, considered a canned thing. This is what Siri does. We're done. And I hope that they continue to do this at a faster clip, frankly, than they're doing, because the smarter and smarter Siri is.
I think they were clear that this was the beginning.
But it's not. But yeah, it's the beginning. But it's been out for how long and how much has changed, right? So,
but also
and it doesn't work half the time, which is another issue that's got to be resolved.
Another part of the question is, if they're doing this with partners like Wolfram Alpha, how much is this Wolfram Alpha's ability to simply turn on the taps on certain other features or striking deals? The article mentions that this is they use Best Buy prices, so this is a deal with Best Buy.
Right.
It's not that these give you links to where you can buy it on Best Buy, and if they're gonna choose how to implement this, they have to choose a store or a bunch of stores anyway. So that's not quite so bad. But I wonder if the way that these services are integrated with Siri is such that if they wanted to simply say, you know what, I think that we're gonna go with Walmart now. We're gonna use Walmart as our price index for anything that involves a TV set because they've made us a better deal to put their pricing.
That makes it less useful, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I wonder if Apple has that kind of control. A little bit too cool.
I bet they do. Hey, if Santa is using Siri, they better get working. Here's the latest iPhone 4S
I should probably
ad.
play it since I have the audio.
Oh, you should play it. I don't have audio, do I?
Here we go.
Yeah.
How do I get to Charlie Grant's house?
Here are directions to Charlie Grant's house.
Is it cold in Santa Fe, Raleigh, Cleveland tonight?
Raleigh.
Really cold, down to about 14 degrees.
Find that email with the naughty or nice list.
New message from Mrs. Claus. Go easy on the cookies.
How does the rest of my day look?
You have 3.7 billion appointments.
Good one.
That's the best part. That's a cute ad. I like that. Nice little timely ad. All right, here's the Apple rumor of the week. I love this rumor, and I hope that it is true. Let me pull it up for you.
There's going to be an Apple TV?
Well, the New York Times did this article. Or was it the Times?
I think it was Wall Street Journal.
Oh, the Journal. That really didn't say anything that we didn't already knew. I don't even understand what the whole point
Except
of
that it's now in the Wall Street Journal. It's them stating this is now in the Wall Street Journal.
Apple execs have discussed the future of TV with major media companies. Not said we're going to do anything, not trying to make any deals. Just, what do you think? What's the future of TV? So I'm not that excited. Now, the Times, on the other hand, says, I find this bizarre, Apple is secretly working on wearable Siri-compatible computers. Apple, according to the New York Times, has a prototype, a curved glass iPod that would wrap around the wrist. You could interact with your voice. I'm sure this is just like blue skying, right? Maybe not. Nick Bilton wrote the article. He says Google also is working on wearable computers that could connect to Android. I see a lawsuit.
Somebody who got there first?
Who got there first? What? That's it. He's got it. It's a Nano.
Yeah, no, I mean it sounds like a non-story the way it was written, because Apple already has wearable computers. They can clip
Right.
into anything. It's also such a low profile that you can embed them into wristwatches and jewelry and stuff like that. It certainly makes sense for them to create to add a voice to add Siri or Siri-like functionality to devices that don't have really good keyboards. Thirdly, it makes perfect sense for it would. There's another part of the article that talks about using these wearable devices to communicate with the iPhone and give you another point of accessibility to it. That's another kind of a no-brainer, because the whole point of every Apple product is for Apple to sell you another Apple product. So if you already have an iPhone and someone tells you, by the way, there's this little workout gear so that you can keep your iPhone or a wristwatch-able iPod Nano now, so that you can keep your iPhone in your pocket and instantly see exactly who's calling without doing anything. You could actually scroll through iOS notifications through this without taking your phone out of your pocket, and then transfer the call to your headset all without fiddling around with your iPhone. If they did that in the standard $150 Nano, they wouldn't have to create a brand new wearable computer. It's just like,
as Nick points out, in a way, an iPhone is a wearable computer. I'm wearing it right here.
Although it would be great from a workout perspective. That's what I think a lot of people use those Nanos for, is and being able to have it on your wrist and being able to. I mean, I think Siri makes more sense for a wrist device than it does for the iPhone in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and Apple really wouldn't. I don't think they would come out with a device that specifically, here is a scarf, but it also plays AACs. I have to admit that I was
although that would be great, the iPod scarf.
Yes, the it's like Apple's giving you a hug. It's like more
Apple's
like Apple literally now has a stranglehold around your neck with its locked-in technology. Why not make it official?
Apple's slave chains.
Do I want it in Gryffindor or
exactly
or Wyvern? But yeah, I got to admit that I was wrong last year when they came up with the redesigned Nano, the color touchscreen Nano. I was wrong because I was just seeing it as a clip-on iPod, but I failed. I didn't take a step back and realize that what you have is this wafer-thin little touchscreen computer that could then be rearticulated in a million different ways by third parties. So that's why if Apple were to decide to put a beefier processor inside this device and make it into an iOS device instead of a whatever it is right now device, that could give a lot of people who up to now haven't given the Nano a second thought, thinking, gee, maybe I should have a MacBook Air and an iPad and an iPhone and an iPod Nano.
I'd love I hope that 5 years from now we'll be reading the rumor that Apple planning to implant a nano into my brain with Siri mind reading capabilities. That's all I'm looking for.
You mean like flat muzzle velocity from a rifle or surgically?
No. I just want a little socket on the back of my head like they had in the Matrix. Just click it right in. That's all I need.
I think Scott. I remember having a conversation with Scott Bourne. I guess they were doing some research in Seattle. He was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. Little clip in the back.
That guy do it in a second. So another Apple rumor: 7-inch iPad in 2012. I think this is bogus, but what do you think? Digitimes is reporting. Yeah. No, not going to happen.
Well, because they're so scared. They're so scared of the 1 or 2 million fires they sold during the Christmas season. How could Apple ever imagine selling 2 million of anything?
It's the same as the rumors that Apple would make a netbook. I think that Apple doesn't need to worry about those markets. They don't need to worry about the 7-inch market. They don't need to worry about the netbook market. They just keep doing what they're doing.
Although it's interesting to think about them maybe doing a new version of the iPod Touch that's maybe a 4.5-inch screen.
A bigger touch.
Yeah. I mean, not even necessarily make it a larger resolution display, but simply say, we realize that people are using this for gaming. We realize that people are using it for ebook reading. We decided to make the screen a little bit bigger to make it better for those two things. It no longer has to be exactly the same size as an iPhone. It would give it a little bit of distinction from the iPhone right now. It'd be an interesting thing for them to do, but that's the only area in which I could ever think of them doing anything with anything like a 7-inch iPad. I just don't think that would ever happen.
I like this one, and I would run out and buy it. Apple rumored to launch a 2880 by 1800 MacBook Pro, a Retina display MacBook Pro in the second quarter of 2012.
For those of us who sit 4 inches away from the display, that would be a really wonderful advantage.
I think people don't understand that when you get the resolution that high, it doesn't make things bigger. It makes them smaller.
Well, it makes them clearer, because what they're doing is they'll make all the font sizes bigger and everything else,
right.
and so they're moving very quickly towards the idea
handle it.
Yeah, I mean, you just make everything twice as big.
But are we talking about the resolution limits of the human eye? I mean, can the human eye really see that difference when you're sitting when you're always sitting a fixed? What's the average distance? Say about maybe a little bit, about a foot and a half. How close would you have to sit before you would see that that's a difference between a letter E and a letter O, for instance?
Well, but I think I'm looking at my 11-inch Air. It's 1366 by 768, and I can clearly on the rounded corners see that there's pixelation and so on and so forth that would go away with twice the resolution. I mean, it would look like I'm looking at a piece of paper.
I find I end up using the Retina display on my iPhone like 3 inches from my eyes. Oh, I can read that. That's beautiful. Of course, I'm nearsighted, so that works for me. But that's what happens to me is you get, you're right, everything looks crisper. But nevertheless, there's this temptation to make fonts small, fonts smaller.
And you do have to stay within the range.
Make them bigger.
Usable.
Yeah, make them bigger. I like the idea of everything's crisper but the same size. Yeah. What I don't like and what tends to happen is the icons are smaller, the text's smaller, and I feel older.
Yeah. I think with the 11-inch Air, the movement really should be towards not Apple but independent developers thinking of full screen mode on an 11-inch Air almost like an entire different OS. They'll never get iOS on the MacBook Air, but if they simply say that whenever the user's in full screen mode on an 11-inch Air, I'm going to essentially assume that I'm developing this for an iPad app. So we're going to have big fat buttons. We know this is a tiny screen. We know that people are still going to be using, even though the screen is smaller, the keyboard is the same size, so they're still typing at the same distance. So I really think it's a change in philosophy rather than a change in technology that should be coming for that.
I think, by the way, never have iOS on a 11-inch Air is a big prediction that I wouldn't necessarily agree with.
They might well.
I don't think.
Lion could get more iOS-y.
I think that's the direction we're going. I think.
Well, you said iOS, sir. Sir,
there's a difference.
Could the court reporter read the transcript back?
I think 3 to 5 years from now, the OS on the iPad and the Air will be almost indistinguishable.
I don't know about
whatever you call it.
I think that they would. I think that Apple is going to continue to try to find good ideas wherever they can find them, and if they happen to already own those good ideas, all the better. Less legal hassles, fewer checks to write.
Let's see. I'm going to move on. I think Apple hired, by the way, a young guy who has done some videos on how Apple could do multitasking and so forth. And I think I love it when you see Apple doing things like that. His name is Jan Michael Cart. He also he's the guy who came up with the notification center idea, right?
I think it was mostly his notification center work. Also, wasn't a hire; it was an internship.
That's right. It's a 7-month internship.
Yeah.
He's majoring in mass media arts at the University of Georgia, specializing in video and graphic design. I think that's great. I think that's a great idea for getting, new ideas into the mix. But you got to figure, as an intern, they're not going to go, oh, yeah, you can design the notifications.
He's going to know where all the best coffee shops are.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. And the fastest way to get from the Apple campus to there and back.
So
the video is pretty good. It has a lot of real common sense solutions to a lot of the problems that the notification center still has. Like one of them is to put a persistent bullet in the taskbar that says here's how many unread notifications you have. Another one is to treat each app that can put notifications into this system like it's a separate widget, so you can have more control over how these apps present themselves, whether or not they present themselves. It's certainly prettier. It's certainly more interesting. There's also one feature that I would love to have, where if an incoming call comes in, instead of taking over your entire screen immediately, his idea is to just make it a notification period, or at least have that as an option. So you can say, if anybody ever actually calls me on the phone using the phone app, then that's probably a breakdown in communication. I do not want my game interrupted by this person.
Are they foolish?
Yes.
Even if it's Steve Jobs, I want to continue with cut the rope. None of those ideas are earth-shattering, but I think it's cool that.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's also cool that he cut together a video that puts them together extremely well.
Yeah, he did a good job.
And it looks very professional. If this were a keynote video, you wouldn't think twice about. I don't know. Maybe there's a couple places where. If you would look for things like, okay, you see that there is 4.5 bars of signal strength instead of 5+ bars, therefore this video fails.
All right, time to take a break. When we come back, our Lion and iOS tip of the week and some picks as well. But first, time to mention our friends at Audible.com, the best #1 audio bookstore in the world with 100,000 titles in the U.S. And, of course, stores all over the world. Different, because of the way publishing works, different titles in different countries, but always a great deal. If you're in the U.S., go to Audible. What is it? Audible.com.
/MacBreak.
Thank you. /MacBreak. It says it right there. What am I looking for? Audible.com/MacBreak. And you can sign up for the gold account. That's a book a month. Your first month's free. Your first book's free. Cancel at any time. You can keep that book forever. And I think that Mr. Ihnatko has a suggestion for us.
I have a great suggestion. It's Patrick Stewart's audiobook version of A Christmas Carol.
Wow.
And
let's hear. Do you have a little audio of that? Do you have it pulled up?
I will pull it up.
Pull it up
in just a second.
while Andy explains what is.
Yeah, well, I don't want to talk over Mr. Stewart.
Well,
I think if you hear 5 seconds of this,
well, you see that or Tim Curry.
I've got it. Here we go.
Go ahead.
In which effort, not being a man of strong imagination, he failed. A Merry Christmas, Uncle! It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation he had of his approach.
That's good. Jean-Luc Picard reads A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. I mean, there's a backstory behind this. This was like one of he used to do stage one-man productions of A Christmas Carol with him doing every single voice, including the children, including the girls. And this was even when he was doing Star Trek. At some point during the year, he would have a theater booked in which he would do his one-man reading or one-man stage production of A Christmas Carol. Just him in a black suit, not reading from a script because he knows every page of this so intimately. I came across this in audio cassette form.
Wow.
Must have been 10 or 15 years ago, and quickly became one of my holiday traditions, so long as I had a cassette player, was to get the box full of stuff that has my Christmas stuff in it, get out the audiobook version of A Christmas Carol, put it in the car, and pretty much listen to this 3 or 4 or 5 times between Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. It is unfortunately very, very abridged. It's only an hour and 47 minutes, but I would even go so far as to say that of all the versions of A Christmas Carol that have ever been produced for TV or the movies, I think it's the one that's closest to the original source, that really feels as though all the character, all the spirit, and the basic good nature of the story are reflected. If there's only one thing that I could call out, it's that I think Patrick Stewart understands that the key to A Christmas Carol is understanding that Scrooge isn't the villain of the piece, he's the hero of the piece, and that's how he portrays it from start to finish.
How wonderful.
Absolutely love this. If I could gift this to every single person I know, I would do that, because it's just a brilliant, if I don't know if I can ever say that anything is my single most favorite audiobook, but this is the one that I would be one of the 2 or 3 that would come into that list before I start arguing that we'll know who can pick just one.
Wow, now I've got to have to get this. That's great. So this could be your holiday gift from Andy Ihnatko. All you have to do is go to audible.com/MacBreak. Ring those bells. Sign up for the gold account. You'll love it. I am an Audible fanatic, as is Andy, as is Alex, as is everybody I know, because we just love listening to great books. And it's a way of reading when you really just couldn't read. I am now in the middle of the second book of the Game of Thrones, The Song of Ice and Fire. It's called A Clash of Kings. Is that what it is? I think it is. And it is just Roy Dotrice is so good, and I just love listening. Got an overnight red eye tonight, and I will be listening to Audible. I always am. Audible.com.
Don't be a monotasker. That's all I got to say. That's my Audible. Like,
that's good. We're fighting monotasking.
We fight monotasking. That's how I read all my books as well. I'm cleaning or
well, and they're now passing laws against using the phone in the car, but that there's not a law against listening to audiobooks in the car.
No.
And it actually helps
not yet.
It helps keep you from picking up that phone and texting because you're engaged in the book, so it probably helps safety. Audible.com/MacBreak. We thank them for their support. Now, let's get an iOS tip of the week.
So this is actually an AT&T tip of the week.
Oh.
But it's connected to your iOS.
Don't use Sprint.
Don't use Sprint. There's my tip of the week. Done.
That's it.
No. So one of the things is people, I travel overseas a lot, and oftentimes I turn on and off my international plan.
I do that all. Yes.
But sometimes you leave and you forgot to call them. And the tip of the week is to remember that AT&T is actually very flexible in this area.
Because I haven't called yet to turn it off.
Well, no. So as far as turning it off, but turning it when you want to turn it on. So I forgot. I went to France.
Oh, you could turn it on that day. Yeah. Yeah.
A couple days into the trip.
Right.
You can call them. In fact, you'll get this warning that says, hey, you're going to have a really expensive thing. If you call AT&T, they will backlog it.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's not just when you started. So you get to France and you've been there for 2 or 3 days and suddenly you realize you're not on the international plan. You can actually call AT&T and request it, and they'll usually suggest it. They'll say, hey, when did you actually get to Paris?
Let's start there.
Yeah, so don't give up on it. If you're going overseas, don't give up and say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. You can actually...
it can be so expensive if you're doing data roaming. It can be tens of thousands of dollars if you're not very careful.
I was careful, and it cost me $800 one time.
Yeah.
Now I get my international plan, and there's actually the other tip.
It's like $1 a megabyte,
something like that.
Yeah.
And it's
so it's still not cheap, but it's worth.
The other tip is that there's a bigger data plan that is not promoted.
Oh,
so there's a big one. It's like $400 for the month or whatever. But if you really are going to spend
500 megabytes,
but it saves you an enormous amount. And I use that. I've used it a couple times.
Have you
so
really?
It's still a lot less than it would have been otherwise.
It's nice if you're wandering through Shibuya and you don't know where the hell you are. The ability to pull up a map. Right. And have that 3G data on your phone. It's a lifesaver when you travel.
Well, and the tip to that is that especially if you're in Japan, this company that we use,
you can't read the signs; they're in Japanese.
Well, no, but this modem, $175 for a week. They deliver it to either the airport or to your hotel.
How much a week?
It's $175.
Okay.
If you're there for a week and you want it's unlimited data.
That's nice.
It's fast, and the battery life is very long. It's surprisingly long, and it is and you just carry it around, and then suddenly you have Wi-Fi. So in Japan, that was a killer solution. Liana Lahu, our producer.
Did she get cards for everybody?
She just a couple of them. Then we kind of shared them. Yeah, I wasn't going to buy them for everybody. That was a lot of money.
That's legal.
Yeah, so it'll up to 5 people. It's a typical MiFi. For some reason, it's bigger and 10 times more stable than the Verizon MiFi that I have.
That's really a good tip. Actually.
We had it sitting in our pocket the whole time, And we just wandered all over the place. And,
Wow.
and with iMessage, it makes a big difference because you're not paying for every single message. Everyone was sitting there and just messaging back and forth. And you could always tell when someone, like, I could always tell when someone was leaving, going too far away because suddenly they're banned. I couldn't see my bars anymore.
Come back.
my daughter would have
the access point. Come back.
Yeah, my daughter had the access point. So she just wandered off. I was like, I've lost my daughter. She's
First rule of Pixel Core, do not wander off with the access point.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's something to also do research in. I don't know what they do in other countries, but I know in Japan, it's a great service. It shows up at your hotel. You leave it at your hotel. You don't have to think about it at all.
That's really great.
And it's killer.
Who do you call for that?
I'll post it somewhere. I don't.
Yeah,
know.
would you?
Liana got it actually,
knows.
so
Okay.
she knows.
And now it's Andy's lion tip of the week.
This is I've ducked out so you can see this a little bit better. This is a new feature in the Preview app in Lion. Preview is one of the most handy apps that you get for free with this sort of thing. They've actually added a magnification feature. So right now here's a couple screenshots. I've got a manual for a new camera here. And they've decided to cleverly put the diagram for how to hit a certain function key in a tiny, tiny little thing. Normally, I'd have to like open up the window or start zooming in. Instead, all I have to do is hit the tilde key, the tilde like accent key underneath the escape key, and this little magnifier will pop up.
Oh, isn't that neat? That
will just magnify whatever you're looking at by like a factor of 2. Yeah. So if you're dealing with like scanned documents, there it is. There's a live fire exercise.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Wow.
Yeah. So if you're dealing with like scanned documents or travel documents like that, it just saves you so much effort because then you have to reset the window. If you use the zoom feature, you have to. If you use the standard like zoom in feature, then you have to like reset it to where it was before you got it.
You know what's cool? It understands the width of text. So here, where the text is a narrow width, it's a narrow magnifier. When I go to a line that goes across the page, it goes wide. That's really smart. That's really neat.
You guys think of everything.
Boy, these Apple people, they ought to do some UI stuff.
Yeah. See, I think it's funny when you see some of these improvements and you realize that the people who write this software also tend to use this software because this wasn't like a boardroom, like whiteboard sort of thing. It was like some guy who has some sort of involvement in Preview saying, dang it, I'm so sick and tired of zooming in. Oh, wait a minute. I have the source code to this. I could add this feature if I wanted to. And so long as I don't tell my boss about it until it actually ships, everybody else will be able to use this feature too.
Very nice. Check it. I didn't even know. You know, it's great. I love these tips because I had no idea that was there, and there it is right there in the menus. All right, and now it would be a good time to do our picks of the week. May I start?
Sure, please.
I don't think I've mentioned this. We've mentioned it on iPad today, but it's an iPhone app that just took the world by storm. When we were in Paris, it came out. Now, you may remember Dave Morin, who used to work at Facebook, left Facebook to start a company last year called Path. Very famously was offered $100 million by Google to buy it. They had a kind of junky, not junky, but an underwhelming iPhone app. The only feature, it was a photo sharing app, the only feature of which that was at all unique was that you could only share it with 50 people. And I thought, well, that's dumb. Why would I want to do that? He turned down $100 million from Google. So obviously this guy had something up his sleeve, and in fact he did, because a couple of weeks ago Path 2.0 came out, and it's actually a mobile form of Facebook that I love. First of all, the limit's now raised to 150 people, but that turns out to be a good thing because you're then very careful about who you pick on your friends list. You make it your actual friends. You know, I only have 50 people in here right now. You can share, and this is, by the way, one of the most, just get it to look at the interface. One of the most beautiful interfaces ever. You could share photos. You could share people that you're with. Look how that spins when it goes back in. Places you are, songs you're singing. It searches the iTunes database to do that. Just do a little tweet, or let's do a text message so I can say hello. Now, normally it's shared only with the people, the 53 friends that I've made. I can also add to that a location. Look how gorgeous this UI is. I can also add to it people that I'm with. So I'm here with Ayaz and Tom, and I think Eileen is here. So let's add.
You just skipped me.
Did I skip you?
Yeah, I'm up there.
There she is. So I'm going to add those people. I'm going to say done. And now here's a nice feature, and this is what really made it a killer app for me. So, by the way, that's great. Now I've got 50 people I care about. This would be great for you to get with your family members when you travel. It's a really nice way to share pictures, and by the way, video as well. I'll show you that feature in a second. But it's, you know, it's a closed network. For people like me, I say, well, you know, I would also like to share those images with the outside world. You can turn on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, or Foursquare. So you get to choose what public networks you want to share this on. So this has become actually my full-time interface to those 4 networks. It'd be great if they added Instagram. I'll cancel that one, and I'll show you one other nice feature. You can add videos. A lot of pictures. These are people who I follow. They're my friends. You can comment on anything that you see. You even have these little smiley faces. You could put a happy face, a wink, a gasp, a frown, or I love that picture on there. There's IS's post of the mayor of Twit Master Control. I don't know.
Would be me.
That would be you, I guess. Are you the mayor of Twit now?
No, just of Master Control.
Ah.
Just of this area.
There's somebody's Ferrari. I didn't even know I knew somebody with a Ferrari. But let me go back a little bit. This is a video that I posted earlier of us bringing our cat. The cat is actually in the bag. We're bringing it.
It's like, what
talk about having a cat in the bag.
It's a cat in the bag going to the vet.
You should have used a hat.
So that's within the UI. Now you can also, of course, go full screen if you want and look at it. And one of the things I like about Path is they upload full quality video and pictures. So when you do go full screen, they look good, and you can also save the video out, yours and others, to your photo album. So. It's a very thoughtfully designed. You like that, the cat in the bag?
Oh, that's awesome.
I was thinking how much funnier it would have been if you were also holding a shovel.
No, the cat's alive.
No, I know.
It's Charlie.
You just don't want to get clawed to death while you take him to the vet. I understand.
Now, people are saying, well, what? That's cruel. No, Charlie is so big, he's huge, that he does not fit in a pet carrier. We can't. There is no cat box that he fits in. But he doesn't mind it. He's happy in the bag. He's being held and
he's not moving around. You can see him. He's just kind of like.
Oh, he's happy in the bag.
Of course, we fed him some whiskey first.
No. He was happy in the bag. So I just love Path. Now, don't ask to follow me on Path because I only follow my close friends. Yeah. Because that's really the idea. You only get 150 people. This is not a public sharing network. For that, use Facebook. You can subscribe to me on Facebook, and most of the stuff that I want to be seen publicly, I just share via Path over to my Facebook. So don't feel hurt if I don't add you. And frankly, Path really, in its design, encourages you to ignore people. And I'm not doing it, Renee. I don't even know who you are. So I'm sharing. It's nothing against you. I'm just sharing with people I like. By the way, you might notice a real similarity in Path to Facebook's timelines. It has a big picture on the front, a little picture of you. It's very timeliney, isn't it? Dave Morin used to work at Facebook. There, by the way, there's Henry passing his driver's exam. So he's going to get his learner's permit. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So these are the kinds of pictures you share with family that you might not share. There he is before the test looking a little nervous. You might not share in public. And so I just love this. And I want everybody to take a look at it, if only because this is, I think, the nicest, this and the new Flipboard, which I'm sure you guys talked about, which also came out at the same time. This new iPhone Flipboard is fantastic, are the best examples of iPhone UI design. We're really starting to see some gorgeous design in iPhone UI, and I think Path, download it just for that. Free and a really nice piece of software. So that's my pick of the week. How about you, Alex? What's that? It looks like a battery.
It is a battery. So, again, I travel a lot, and you end up with a situation where you don't have enough battery on your iPhone or one of your devices.
All the time.
All the time.
You notice I have a Mophie case.
And what happens, though, when the Mophie case has been depleted?
I have another Mophie case.
I have another Mophie case, too.
I have rotating Mophie cases.
But
you just
what
put
happens?
It into another sled that charges the first.
Okay, but the problem is that you're always charging all these things.
That's right.
And occasionally you just want you're in an emergency, you don't have any more battery power.
You just need
on your iPad or your iPhone or any other USB device. And what you need is you just need to go to a hardware store or a 7-Eleven and get some. What you really wish you could do is just go buy some batteries and charge your phone. That's what this does. So look.
So you show me. I don't understand. Oh, it's just a bunch of Okay, here.
It's a box.
We'll do the
It's a
close-up.
box with batteries.
You can't do the close-up because you don't have a camera, so I'll show
So
you.
what this is a box with
batteries that go in a box, but then the box has what, a USB? Oh, it does.
It does have a USB there, and it lights
Now,
up.
how much charging are you going to get out of that? 4 batteries.
One of those 4 batteries equal basically the life of one iPhone battery.
So you could charge this all the way. You charge your iPhone all the way.
Right, and it works with any USB thing. So this MiFi that we were using in Japan. So we wanted to make sure that we could use it all the time.
I like that.
This was the backup. This was kind of the ripcord. If that thing went down, we could plug this in.
That's neat. And then you just.
Yep.
So any device that takes a USB cable, is it enough? It's probably not enough wattage for an iPad.
It's 800 milliamps, which should be enough.
Doesn't it need 10 watts?
10 watts? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it does. But so let's try charging an iPad with this. That'd be my test.
Yes.
That's cool. And it's got an on-off battery. It's called the mobile battery. I bet it's cheap.
It's
from Elecom.
Well, it's in Japan. It's cheap. In Japan, it's $20. In the United States, the cheapest I found online, which by the way is a really cool website. There's a website called Audio Cubes, Japan's best kept secrets.
Audio Cubes.
So I found this in Japan. I found this. I got this at Big Camera, and if anyone's been to Big Camera, it's awesome. Anyway, so I found this at Big Camera. They have there's of course 80 versions of this in Japan. But this is I found this one at Audio Cubes is the website that I found it. And it's about $50. But what I will say is that I'm never going to travel without it because I just want to know that no matter what, I can plug a USB device in and charge it if I need to. You know, and you
can always buy more batteries.
I can always buy more batteries. Yeah. I don't want to worry about whether I charge it. Now, generally, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to leave nice, fresh batteries, and if everything goes well, I'll never use it. But I have had situations where I need to do a business call, and now I'm hosed because I can't. Right. Because I don't have any battery left.
Love this idea.
So it's.
I wish it were cheaper here. That's ridiculous.
I do wish it was cheaper. I hope someone looks at this, watch the show, and buys something. And
I mean, $20 is about right. $50.
Well, it's being imported from Japan. That's why.
Right.
And they come in different colors. Go ahead.
There's nothing stopping you from buying 2,700 milliamp hour rechargeable batteries and using that as your power source.
True.
Right.
So then I bet you can get more than one recharge out of it.
Good point.
Yes.
Good point.
So anyway, that's my.
Wait a minute. Amazon has something similar for $4. Let's see. Let's look.
Yeah.
Let's look. Chat room is so good at
that. That is excellent if it's true.
Looks pretty similar.
Now, can you put A batteries in there?
Double A battery.
How many
powered
batteries?
Charger. It's probably 2.
2 might not be enough.
A while back, there was one of my picks of the week was the really great Adafruit site had this really cool kit for converting an Altoids tin into a USB recharger.
Right.
Had a Radio Shack battery clip. Had the electronics, the components just solder it together.
As I remember, there's a little bit of an issue getting through TSA with that. Homemade.
What is this homemade thing?
Yeah, I have enough trouble getting through TSA as it is.
So I'm seeing a variety of that. The one we just showed was 2. Newer has one that says 3X. I presume that's 3 portable. 3. There's 2 and 3 batteries. That's interesting. And of course, you've had a number of things. What's this? This looks like it has 5. No, that's just 5X.
And the thing is, I don't want to have something that I have to charge.
Looks like
so. That's the big
2 AA's.
It says this is 2. Yeah, 2
that's
AA's.
2 AA's. I don't know what the 5X means.
But what I would suggest is whether you buy this one or one of those, it's just great to have something that you can charge your iPhone with AA as a backup.
Right.
I don't suggest doing it all the time, but having something in your bag that you can just simply, I can stop anywhere and charge it. That's what I needed.
And of course, there's a number of them that you recharge the recharger. But I like this because you can buy batteries for it. That's
the key to the operation.
Yeah. Right. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week.
My pick of the week is this really great online newsletter I discovered. It's called Tidbits.
Yay!
Now, TID, capital B, capital I, capital T, capital S. I don't know if you have to capitalize it in your web browser, but I'm saying it exactly how they gave the Uniform Resource Locator. That's what it's called to me. Yes, I'm talking like it's 1993 and Tidbits is still brand new.
Right.
Even though I think they're even older than that. Yes, we all know Tidbits. One of the it's like the New York Times of Mac news, Mac tips, Apple news, Apple tips, Apple everything, run by the Angsts, Adam and Tanya, and a staff of really sharp individuals. It's one of the go-to resources when you need to learn anything about anything. It's always been run sort of on a PBS model, where if you go to the website, there are banner ads, but it's mostly sponsored by corporate sponsorship. A couple weeks ago, they announced that, well, it's modern times, and corporate sponsors' money is not quite as big as it used to be. Rather than collapse Tidbits into something cheap that we can run under the money we now have available, we would like to continue to run it at the exact same high level we've already had, meaning that we can actually hire and pay writers to do really great content. We have the ability to create new features for our content management system to continue to deliver great features to our readers. So they decided to sort of change their model a little bit and have a subscription alternative, where if you don't contribute to, if you don't buy a subscription to Tidbits, you still get access to the content. If you subscribe to Tidbits, and they have annual fees anywhere 5 or 6 different levels, starting at $20 a year, 20 stinking miserable tiny little bucks a year, all the way up to $1,000 a year, $1,000 for a lifetime subscription. And if you subscribe, you get I have this in front of me. You get the version of the Tidbits website for your graphical ads. The RSS feed will get the full text of all articles via RSS. If you don't subscribe, you just get the headers. I mean, you have to click on these links in Google Reader to get at them. You can get articles emailed to you immediately. You get some discounts on software. You get discount on all the Yanks' Take Control ebooks. It's a good value, and you're supporting something really, really great. Also, if you do go for the $1,000 lifetime membership, you get to have dinner with the Tidbits staff. Also an open invitation that if you're in the Ithaca area, by all means.
Oh, you got to go to Ithaca. There's the negative.
They'll fix you dinner for $1,000. They'll fix you dinner.
I should do that, because we just use so much of their material all the time. I'll just send them a check.
Yeah,
and
I should reiterate, it's not as though they're a sinking ship and they're going down.
No.
They need infrastructure. All they're saying is that this corporate sponsorship they used to rely on is not quite so big. As Tidbits, even if you don't pay for it, it's still going on. It's just that they're giving an opportunity for that huge community of Tidbits readers to show their support and show how much they appreciate all the work that the Tidbits staff is doing by giving them 20 miserable, tiny, stinking bucks a year.
Do it.
Economy's bad, but it's not that freaking bad.
No, it's very similar to what we do. I mean, I think if you have a community around you that appreciates what you're doing, it's great to take advantage of that. And, in some ways, it's a nice thing to offer the community, because then they get to buy in and participate. Our bricks are almost all done. We're almost done with 1,800 bricks we sold at a high price, too. They were not inexpensive. Yeah. And we're going to do, I do promise, a gigapan. Maybe you can help me. A gigapan of all the bricks. Yeah, because I want people to be able to go to the website and find their brick.
Right.
And just to button something you were talking about at the top of the show about a community sponsored building community and them supporting your work. It really is gratifying when you have a situation like this, where I think so many of Tidbits readers have been, if they had been presented with an opportunity to just toss a few bucks their way, would have been happy to do that, because they feel as though they are being a plus contributor as opposed to just a negative contributor to the enterprise.
Exactly.
And so I do agree that I think the utopia, and hopefully a realizable utopia for the future of content creation, is exactly this sort of thing, where you give away your content relentlessly and religiously and reliably for a number of years, and then you get people that are not only so appreciative for the work that you do and looking forward to your next thing that you do, but also they're very, very eager and willing to actually contribute to the creation and your support. So
it's a great thing.
20 stinking bucks.
Well worth it.
Or 50 or 75 bucks. You got it. Come on.
Ring Adam and Tanya's chimes right now. Tidbits.com. Jingle, jingle, jingle. And I think the Vera Ellen on the wall says it's time to wrap this up.
Rosemary Clooney?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's zoomed in. There you go.
I've done that every time to poor Rosemary Clooney. I just can't believe that she ever looked like that.
Well, I'd say the hair is mesmerizing.
It is. There's something. I want to stick my finger in that swirl.
It's like the T-5000 robot sculpted hair out of that.
It's my kid said that to me. He said, "You look like an old Jimmy Neutron." That's a reference probably none will get. Thank you, Andy Ihnatko. Chicago Sun-Times. You should also visit his website, www.cwob.com. He's also at Ihnatko on the Twitter, IHNATKO. And have a wonderful holiday. I hope you're doing something fun for the holidays.
Once again, actually, going back to Patrick Stewart's A Christmas Carol, I spend the entire Christmas day driving all up and down New England, visiting friends and family, and usually playing a mixture of Patrick Stewart's Christmas Carol and one of my best friends' really awesome holiday CD tape that he's been doing ever since we were in high school. So
what a fun thing to do. Well, have a great Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Happy Hanukkah to everybody. However you choose to express peace, love, and joy this week, I hope you get to express it and experience it this week and next year.
Absolutely. And take care. We'll see you in the new year. Next week, we're going to do a best of show, which Andy will be featured prominently in, of course. But we'll be back.
In a car, too.
In a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Andy knows that.
Yeah. It's going to be good.
In the trunk of a car, desperately pleading.
Let me out. Let me out.
I think we're at a stoplight. I hear a circus to my left.
But we will be back on January 3rd, I guess it is, for 2012. And a brand new year of MacBreak Weeklies. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you to Alex Lindsay, pixelcore.com, for the Multimedia Guild of Artists learning and working together, and pixelcore.tv for their podcast. Are you going to do a live thing on Thursday?
Thursday, we're not doing a live thing for Pixelcore, but I am doing a class at Filmmakers, seminars, webinars. So the filmmaker seminars, this is the live streaming. So I'm doing it's a class.
Should we go to filmmakerseminars.com?
Yeah, I think it's filmmakerseminar.com.
Okay.
And I think it's right on the front page, but it's free. So if you want to, and I think there's like 1,600 people registered or something. So it's going to be, and so it's been about 90 minutes talking about live streaming and some of the stuff that we've learned so far. Related to using, everything from how to get it set up and how to get started and so on and so forth. So definitely check that out, and you can register today, and then introduction to live streaming. There it is.
Filmmaking webinars.
Yeah,
filmmakingwebinars.com.
And it's using GoToMeeting. Go to Webinar. Actually.
Go to Webinar. Oh, that's neat. So if you want to learn about live streaming, this guy knows it.
We do a lot of it.
Sports and entertainment. Yeah, whenever I have a question, I go next door to PixelCore and say, "Is Alex here? I gotta know. I gotta know." All right. I guess we're out of here for the year. Again, next Tuesday we will be here, and we'll air it live as if we're doing it live.
I'll be here.
But Eileen's done a great job on the best stuff. You'll be here. If you want to come by and stop by,
I'm working. We're
share some eggnog, please do. I actually will be here too. I'll be back by then. Happy New Year, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy Festivus. We've got our poll. Merry Kwanzaa. Hanukkah begins tonight at sundown. Have a great winter solstice celebration. And we'll see you next year. But meanwhile, get back to work because MacBreak is broke.